For debate, I recognize a member from Oshawa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'm glad to be able to bring my voice and the voices of my constituents in Oshawa to this conversation. I'm disappointed, though, that I don't get my full time because with the government time allocating it, we are stifling debate once again. But here I am speaking on Bill 13, an act in respect of the cost of electricity and time allocation. We're talking about an 8% rebate, and Mr. Speaker, as you've heard, it's an 8% rebate that this shouldn't be a conversation because it never should have been on the bills in the first place. 6 years ago, this government made a choice that I'm going to wait for the Minister of Energy to stop talking so I can hear myself. It'd be great if he would listen. Thank you. I'd like to share some thoughts from the people of Oshawa on your 8% rebate, the one that this government is asking us to be so thankful for. But the provincial portion of the HST never should have been put on the bills in the first place. And 6 years ago, we said that because the cost of electricity is essential. People need to stay warm. This is Canada. People need to function in the lights. With the light on, with the heat on, this is something that is essential. We're talking about basic fundamental affordability issues now. We're looking at the next generation. We are seeing that their hope for their future is being once again diminished because they cannot afford to pay their bills. Families cannot afford to pay their bills. Back in the day, Sir Adam Beck had a vision, and that was power for the people, power at cost, not power for profit, as this government has made their priority. But Sir Adam Beck wanted to lead people into the light. He wanted businesses to be able to grow, families to be able to light their homes, and here we have a Liberal government that is literally leading people to the edge of poverty. That is their vision. You know, we've had so much conversation in this House about our rural communities and remote communities and their realities for their hydro costs. Just astronomical expense, astronomical costs and terrible situations. And, Mr. Speaker, I was curious to know what it looked like in my riding. We're not rural, we aren't remote, we are Oshawa. And so, like some of my other colleagues, I put out a call to collect hydro bills from my constituents. And that was an initiative that I started because I wanted to know. I wanted to know what their reality was. I wanted to know what the actual numbers were in my community. And it grew and grew and grew because, and you might find this hard to believe, Mr. Speaker, the Liberal members around my riding aren't necessarily interested in collecting hydro bills and seeing real numbers. So I started collecting bills from other ridings, from my neighbouring from my neighbouring colleagues' ridings, and it painted a very interesting picture, and not one that would surprise you. Families were coming in with bills, individuals coming in with bills, businesses. The municipality brought in their streetlight bill. We're hearing from charities, from industry, and it's all part of this big, tangled, messed-up system that the government now is wanting to sell off and sweep under the rug and wash their hands of. These are not frustrated people, Mr. Speaker, that are coming in. They are desperate people. They are coming in a panic, and I'll tell you, we're tough. You know, we're Canadian. We're not afraid of the winter. We're not. We're not afraid of cold. We're not afraid of winter. But I will tell you, we are afraid of our hydro bills. That's what it's come to in Ontario. People are afraid of their bills. They are living in fear of what the winter is going to bring and how they're going to heat their homes, how they're going to pay these bills. And this is a government that blames and shames and tells them, you know, well, unplug your phone chargers. The Minister of Energy this summer, you know, their ministry said, unplug your phone chargers while you're out playing Pokemon Go to reduce phantom power. That was the helpful solution. Mr. Speaker, that's not the problem. And the last Minister of Energy, you know, he had been called, what was it, the Yoda. It was like listening to Yoda. He knew so much about energy. And I think, you know, if the government's sitting around at his feet having story time about electricity, I thought I would bring some stories from my riding. So I'm gonna talk about Jim. Jim writes, last summer I was barely able to afford the hydro bills, but this year they are criminal. If they continue climbing, I will be forced to vacate Ontario, as some of my friends have already done. No government should be allowed to do what the Wynne government has done to the cost of hydro, and now she plans on screwing over the cost to even heat your home. Jimmy said, to be fair, I do heat with electricity, baseboard electric, but I'm at my wit's end regarding these exorbitant bills each month. It's totally depressing. My wife and I live on CPP and OAS with supplement. Our total income in 2015 was only $30,817. As you can see, hydro accounts for 15% of our 2015 income. Another email. An additional concern that can be included in the investigation of rising hydro rates is for individuals that must use medical devices at home and are left with the full impact of powering these devices. I have been diagnosed with COPD. The treatment, an oxygen concentrator which has been installed in our home, and of course it requires electricity to operate. We make every effort to keep our usage as low as possible. Example, our February 2015 electrical bill was $51.34. A year later, February 2016, $141.15. There should be some form of assistance for those who, due to health concerns, cannot otherwise reduce the usage of electricity. Jean said, enclosed, please find our hydro bill for September 2016. From Jean, age 73, and Lynn, age 76, living on a small pension, plus my wife has been on permanent oxygen for 8 years. So we have to run the oxygen machine 24/7, and we have to run the central air conditioner system to help my wife breathe. We are finding our hydro bills are slowly pushing us into debt. This is the reality of individuals in our communities. Kathy says, as you can see from my attached hydro bill, it's absolutely horrendous. And it was $658.87 for the month of August, one of the worst that we saw in our office. When you calculate the costs here added to property taxes, insurances, food, house and car maintenance, etc., you can see why our savings has been used to supplement the low income. We are told that the government would like to help keep seniors in their homes for as long as possible without having to be placed in nursing homes. If there is not enough income for the outlay of expenses, how could that ever be possible? Staying in one's home is becoming a pipe dream. Eric is a full-time single parent, working part-time. His son is 7 years old, has been diagnosed with ASD when he was 3, and he says, pertaining to hydro, as you can see, my budget plan amount is $233 per month, and we only live in a cozy 2-bedroom apartment. There is no one else residing with us. I find it very hard to be able to pay our bill every month. If we're not to be on the budget plan, we would be paying over $400 a month in the cold winter months. What hurts the most about these hydro rates is that I'm no longer able to save for my son's eventual college education. He's very bright. On a side note, I've never been late on paying my hydro bill or any bills for that matter. We had people walk in and drop their bills on my counter, Mr. Speaker, and they know that I'm planning to drop them on the Premier's desk. But we're learning from them. We're hearing their stories. We're hearing their voices, and we're seeing their panic and their distress. So here's one. Our behaviour hasn't changed at all, but our bills are up more than 100 from last year. What the heck is global adjustment? Another. We can't afford to retire next year anymore. It's not fair. There's ways for homeowners to get a break, but renters get stuck without any help. And another one. We're happy our air conditioner broke this summer. We sweated a lot, but compared to our friends, we actually saved money. People are glad that they have to be uncomfortable, that they can't afford their bills. They're relieved. What a mess. Laura said, I try to conserve, but why bother? Bills keep going up either way. I went to my MPP for help, and he told me it wasn't his jurisdiction. And Jeff was a gentleman who came in with his walker and came in with a whole bunch of bills, and he had typed up everything as well as giving me the bills. He wanted me to understand his reality. Jeff lives in a townhouse about 1,100 square feet. Jeff does not have an air conditioner, and he doesn't have a game system, and he doesn't have satellite TV, and he doesn't have cable. He doesn't have an air conditioner. He does have a stove, okay, as many of us do. And Jeff isn't sure what to do because this summer he only used 1 fan. Last summer he used 2 fans, but he tried to reduce his consumption by only using 1 fan, either the one in front of the TV or the one in front of his computer, to ration his power consumption. It's the highest it's ever been.
I'm doing my best to show the respect and listen to the Speaker this morning, but I would ask that the members on the government side, I appreciate that you may have some business you need to talk to about, but I'm going to either you keep it down or else you can go out to the East Lobby and discuss your business out there, all right? Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Back to the member from Oshawa.
Thank you. And isn't it a shame that the government has to conduct business in the middle of this debate? the debate that they're shutting down so they don't have to listen to it. Anyway, so Jeff came in and is telling me about his reality with his cost in the summer, but he has a plan, Mr. Speaker, for the winter. His plan is that he turns his thermostat down to 62 and he has a heavy house coat and he has warm slippers. That's his plan to make it through the winter. That is what we're reduced to. That is our reality here in Ontario. Shame on this government. This is a government, Mr. Speaker, that has decided to sell off Hydro One. We've talked about that ad nauseum. I don't think they've heard a darn word about it, but they've decided to remove oversight and bury the problem. So this is a government saying, say thank you for your 8% rebate. And we're glad to have any kind of reduction in cost here, but we will never be able to see the system fixed because they've removed the oversight. They've hidden it. They're burying it so that we can't actually untangle this mess. We can't actually solve the problem. So they want us to say thank you for the 8%, for that 36 cents a day. How about you stop the sale and you buy it back, because the people need to own all of it to be able to solve the problems that you've designed, by the way, just to make a quick buck. They're cutting off a revenue stream of predictable income for healthcare and education, and it's so short-sighted. Not that we're surprised, but no accountability, no transparency, and now today with time allocation, no debate. So, I've had my say. There's piles more I want to say. I can't because they're stopping debate, but this government is so out of touch. And liberal reality seems to be a parallel universe. It really does. You know, Doreen, I've got time for one more story. Doreen came into my office. Doreen had a binder of her hydro records from 1972. From 1972, when Trudeau I started making changes and she started keeping track, it was her cost of power versus what she had to pay. And now she's got all these little boxes that she keeps track of, and it's such a complicated system now, but Doreen's been keeping her eye on you. Doreen's been keeping track. Feel free to give her a call. I'm sure she could actually educate you and give you some pointers. But there are people, this is their reality, and you are mucking with it purposefully. And I'll say one more thing. Mr. Speaker, when this government is voted out and they're sitting in the cold at home wondering why they chose to let this happen, and when they're no longer elected and they're looking back at all the good that they've done, they're going to be very hard-pressed to find it, because the harm that they are doing now is massive and irreparable, and shame on them. And that, Mr. Speaker, is all I have to say, because they've stopped the debate for today. Thank you.
Thank you for the debate. Member for